Hey everyone, Lauren from A Girl and Her Wool here. I have a finished object to share with you guys today. It is a faux Friday and I'm sure you guys can fully expect what project we are going to be talking about today if you've been following along, but who cares, that's fine. I don't need to surprise you. I'll get into the finished object in a minute. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things first. So one of them is the sample knitters. So I have lots of projects coming in from sample knitters that I will be showing you guys as they come in. You can also check listing photos. I will be posting them there for for the corresponding colorway. I will have the sample there so you can see how colorways knit up. I'm gonna also be sharing them on Instagram, so make sure you're following me, A Girl and Her Wool, on Instagram so you can see all the wonderful samples that I have coming in. I have some larger projects that should be coming in kind of later this month into April, and so I'm excited to show you guys those as well as the kits that I'm gonna be creating with them. So also 2 weeks from today, I'll be having a shop update. It's kind of like my second spring update. So I launched a lot of spring colors in my March update, so a few weeks ago. So go check those out if you haven't already. And then I will be having a ton more spring colors coming in April. I've just been dyeing up all the new colors, a lot of things that I think you guys are really gonna like. A gradient set, mini skein set, and then like a whole bunch of colors. So that'll launch in 2 weeks, the first Friday of April. I think it's like April 2nd. So make sure you are here for that. But the note on sample knitters that I wanted to make is that thank you to everybody who continues to reach out about sample knitting. Those of you who have sample knit for me already and are looking for more projects, I just wanted to reiterate that I have had way more response to the sample knitting than I expected, and that I can honestly give people projects for. So I would love to give you all projects to work on, but that would not make sense from a business perspective to send out more yarn than I really need to. So as much as I would love to give you guys all projects to work on, right now I can't. I've filled up on the projects. I do have another round of them that will be coming out soon. So if you haven't had a chance to sample knit, you can of course jump on the train then. I haven't like capped off who can respond to be a sample knitter because I know people are gonna come and go, and I think just like having people available will be great versus kind of capping it and then running out of available people and then having to make another call again. So if you haven't had a project from me, that doesn't mean that you won't in the future, but just keep an eye out for when I send out the calls for the certain projects, and they will be coming soon. I've already started dyeing up yarn for more kits to send out to you sample knitters, so thank you guys all so much for that. And so I'm just buttoning up the sweater here, so while I do that, the other announcement that I have is that if you want to partake in the April Mystery Yarn Clubs, they do renew tomorrow, which is the 20th of March. If you sign up at any point, you can sign up at agirlandherwool.com and just go to the shop and then Yarn Clubs, you'll see them there. You have through the 20th to sign up for the April clubs, and those will ship early next week. And then after that, starting on the 21st, if you sign up then it'll automatically start you in May for the May club. So if you want to participate in the April club, you are more than welcome to do so. Just make sure you sign up by the end of the day on the 20th. And for that you have, as always in my shop, you can do any size skeins. So you can get mystery minis. You choose if you want a contrast skein or just the main colorway. And a variety of bases, and then you can also choose to just get a 5 skein mini skein set instead, or you can do both. So if you have any questions, let me know, but I just wanted to do the reminder in this video that they do renew tomorrow. So if you want to sign up, make sure you do so by then. Alright, so that is enough with the announcement. So let me show you guys the finished sweater. So if you haven't been paying attention, this is a sweater that I've knit for my niece. And so it is here, all finished, buttons are all done, everything is all done. It is ready to send on over to her. This is the Eostre Children Cardigan. And let me just double check the designer is Jekaterina Dmitrijeva. I'm really sorry that I don't know how to pronounce that. But this is again, a children's cardigan. I knit this in A Girl and Her Wool, my hand-dyed yarn, the sock base, which is my fingering weight superwash merino nylon blend, and the colorway is Aurora, which is a really pretty blues, blue-green, pink, and it makes some purples in there, and then you get the bits of like the yellowy brown speckles, and it just is a speckly, variegated, but like kind of uniform all over kind of color, so not really like a pooling colorway. And here is the remnants of it, so you can kind of see what it looks like. So yeah, that's Aurora. So so you can see this. So just kind of giving more stats, I knit the 8-year-old size. My niece is turning 8 at the beginning of April, and her mom, the next size up would have been a 10-year-old size, and her mom said she is still pretty small and she thought the 8-year-old size would actually be best and that it would still give her room to grow. So that is what I did. I made no modifications except for on the sleeves, which I'll talk about in a little bit. For the body, I did not make any modifications, and I have not measured the gauge yet to see what my final gauge was now that it's blocked. I'm going to do that just to kind of write it down for future reference, but I have no idea if I got gauge or not. I have no idea if this sweater meets the final measurements that the 8-year-old size would have met. I just followed the directions for the 8-year-old size, and this is the sweater that I got. I definitely think it's going to be big enough for her. It's definitely going to be wide enough for her, and I think the length will be good. I had her mom and my mom measure, I don't know which one actually did the measurements, but one of them measured her for how long she wanted the sweater to be. So instead of, well, yeah, she said how far down it was about her hips, and it was about like 12 to 12.5 inches. That's how long from her armpit down that she wanted it, which is exactly what the pattern called for. So I think I probably did not get gauge because it did come out a little wide. It looks a little wide to me, just kind of putting it up against me, but the length is good. So my guess is that I did not get gauge, that came out in a bigger gauge than what was called for, but who cares? Who doesn't like a little extra room in their cardigans? And I know she likes to wear them over things, so I definitely think that it's gonna be good for her. The sleeves are a lace pattern, so you can see the body is just a stockinette body. It's a raglan, raglan increases, but you do get a lace pattern on the sleeves. So you can see it there, and it's a pretty straightforward lace pattern. I will say that the yoke took me a while. Like, I didn't have the pattern down, and that was probably because when you're doing the yoke, you're knitting some of the front, the back, and then just kind of the sleeve stitches, and you have the increases that you're doing. And so the yoke took me probably the longest out of this whole sweater. Once I separated for the sleeves, the body obviously was quick, it was stockinette, and then I thought the sleeves were gonna take a while, and they just didn't, because when I was just going round and round with the sleeves, I did memorize the pattern. It is very straightforward, and I was able to do just fine with it. If you look closely, I'm assuming you can tell, the gauge changes quite a bit between the yoke part and the sleeve part. That is because I went down a needle size on the sleeve, and I talked about this a little bit in the live stream that I did, I believe, but the sleeve was fitting my arm, which even proportionally to me, I have larger arms than the rest of my body measurements would give for me. I always have to increase my sleeve bigger than what the pattern calls for the size that I'd be doing elsewhere. And so the fact that it was fitting my arm was a little scary. So I ended up dropping down the needle sizes, which I'll talk about in a little bit of what needles I used. And I also ended up removing a repeat of the lace pattern. So I basically decreased the number of stitches in like the first 2 rows, like 1 or 2 rows. And then I also went down in needle size. And I think the sleeve will still be big on her, but that's fine. And the other thing with the sleeves too is that I didn't know exactly how long to make it, so I made it be almost the length of the sweater, figuring if she wanted it down to her hips, that would be like close to like her wrist-ish. And the sleeves are lace though, so I figured as like a spring summery sweater, it might be nice to have them a little bit shorter. Plus kids don't really like super long sleeves because like they get into everything. And then I figured she could always wear a long sleeve underneath it, and if this long sleeve stuck out a little bit longer than the sweater sleeve, then that would be totally fine. So that's what I went with. And yeah, and then I did, the last step of course was the button band. So each side of the button band, so the button band side and the buttonhole side, went really quickly, and then I will talk about sewing on the buttons next. Okay, so you won't see the whole sweater here, but I did want to show what I did here with the button band. So this is the top of the sweater, and let me just unbutton it really quickly. So I did learn this from the Knit More girls way back when, and I can't remember if they did like a YouTube video or if it was like a live stream or something like that. But basically when you have your buttons on one side and the wool is stretchy, right? We know that if we let wool hang, it will kind of stretch down, and so the buttons can kind of weigh on that and make the sweater kind of out of shape, especially on the one side compared to the buttonhole side. And so what they always recommended, and what I've done before when I've made cardigans with buttons, I have to say I've never made one for myself. I've only ever done this for nieces. So on the other side where you sew the buttons on, I sewed some ribbon in, and I just did ribbon that match. I think the yarn color is a little blown out here. It matches a little bit more than I think it looks on camera, but that way if it does show through a little bit, it doesn't matter, and it's just like a little extra fun. Again, this is a kid sweater, so a bright pretty blue is always welcome. And so I just sewed that down, and I really didn't do anything fancy. I don't have a sewing machine, so I just did this with my hands. So I cut a length of ribbon that was just about as long as the sweater, maybe a little bit shorter, and then when I pinned it down and sewed it down, I folded in the edge so that the end is actually sewn in there. And so I just did, this is the ribbon pattern. Okay, it's kind of focused. Okay, there we go. So the ribbon is blue, but it has these white dashes on it. So that is not my sewing, that's actually the ribbon. But if you look up here, I think you can kind of see some of the little white stitches that I did, just like kind of along the same spot. So the big white is not my stitches. And then again, just like around the edge, just kind of try to secure the end down. And then all of these are just where the buttons are. So and how this works is now it won't stretch out because the ribbon is there holding it. It can't stretch out. It can only stay this length, which will help keep it secure. And so when I sewed the buttons, I started at the top and I lined it up, and everywhere the hole was, I kind of just placed the button there, and then that's how I kind of picked it up to sew it through. Did it a few times, knotted it in the back, and went down to the next one. So it didn't work out perfectly. I won't rebutton it all right now, but you'll see in the video, it doesn't necessarily lay too perfectly, and like the last button is a little bit lower than on this side than it is on this side. Like the sweater is obviously the same length, but I think just in some parts along here, I just didn't necessarily line them all up perfectly, but totally fine. A kid's sweater, it's not going into a museum. So anyway, that is what I did with the button band. Oh, and then the last thing is I did use white buttons, again, just plain white buttons that I got from Joann's, nothing special at all, and I used white thread. So I sewed it down with white thread and I sewed the buttons with the white thread. There is white in Aurora, so I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, and it's just the easiest. I mean, sewing with one color thread is not necessarily easier than any other, but white is just easy, and then that way it blends in with the buttons versus doing like a blue or a pink or something to blend in with the sweater, but then it would kind of stand out with the buttons. Of course, I could always sew the ribbon down with a different color than the buttons, but you can definitely see the thread. I think when I've done this before, I've hidden it a little bit better. I think you can kind of even see it on camera there, but especially when it's buttoned, no one will notice, and when you hold it back, absolutely no one would notice. So the white worked out well. So that is the button band. So yeah, so that is making the sweater. I do have my craft journal here, so if you guys haven't checked out my craft journal stickers, you definitely should. This has been a lot of fun to do, and now that the sweater is completely done, I do plan to write up my final notes on that, and you guys will kind of see that in a couple of weeks when I do my recap of the month. But just to kind of talk about some of the other details. So one, I cast this sweater on February 13th. And I would say it has been about a month. So it's been a month since I cast it on. So for me, that's really great to get this whole sweater done from start to finish in a month. I will say this brought back some knitting mojo that I haven't had in a while, and when I finished it too, it just it made me so happy. I think a lot of the projects that I have been working on have been for the shop, and while that is amazing and great and fun to do, it was really nice to make a wearable garment that someone wanted. So a few years ago, I think when Hannah was 4, I made her and her sister matching sweaters, and I made her like a 5-year-old size, and who knows, it might have been, again, the gauge might have come out differently, that it could have even been like a bigger size. But I remember she was 4 because I made her a 5-year-old size, and I remember her saying to me, "But I'm not 5, I'm only 4. And I just remember being like, yes, but I want you to have the sweater to wear for a long time. So even though you're not 5 yet, you still can wear it. Even though you're 4, you're still allowed to wear the 5-year-old sweater. It just, I wanted to make it a little bit bigger so that you can wear it for longer," type of thing. You know, she like was just so confused on how she was allowed to wear a 5-year-old sweater if she was only 4, which is just so cute. So anyway, she obviously is turning 8 now, so I think she has outgrown it by now. And I guess she said to my mom, her grandmother, that you know, she was really sad that she grew out of the sweater that I made for her, and she is like us and quieter and shyer and polite, and she wouldn't want to burden anyone, and so I don't think she wanted to ask me to make her another one because she like probably felt guilty asking me to do something for her, even though like, doesn't that bring us the greatest joy, is having someone be sad they grew out of a garment you made for them and they want a new one. So I think as immediately when that happened, I got this project in motion. And so originally she told me she wanted, I asked her like what she was thinking for the sweater, and she told me like some stripes and some solid. Good job, Lauren. Some stripes and some solid, right? And she said like maybe blues and yellows and green, because like blue and yellow make green, so she thought that would match. But I didn't want to do a striped sweater for her because I wanted it to be easy. I just wanted one color. I didn't want to worry about the stripes. I just wanted to do one color. So and I could tell, like, because she was like texting with me about this, and I was kind of getting the hint that like she didn't know, right? Like she just wanted me to do something. And I think the reason why she said stripes is because the first sweater that I made for her was a striped sweater, so it was the playful stripes pattern, and so that's why I think she had in her head stripes and solid, because that's what the first sweater was. And so instead of doing stripes, I was like, well, Aurora is really pretty. It has like that blue greens and like even the little bit of yellow in there. I know she likes pink, so I figured she would do just fine with this color and be happy with it. And I knew that if I made her a sweater that I liked, that she would like it too, that she wasn't going to be picky about it. So went on Ravelry, searched, and found this pattern, and I loved that it was simple, but it had like the really lacy, elegant sleeves. She is a girl who enjoys wearing like dresses, and she loves wearing cardigans. Like even when I was talking to her most recently, she was wearing a little cardigan with the one button buttoned at the top over her shirt, and it's the pattern, it just seems so her. And she has seen it. She you know, loves it. She like, I think so she saw a picture of it, and then she like texted me like, I love it, like in caps, and then like a gif of like just like someone screaming I love it. It was just like so sweet. I loved it so much. It's also weird to like be texting with my niece, but that's the times we're in. So anyway, I know she's excited for it, and her birthday, like I said, is coming up, so I plan to have her open it on her birthday. So that is that. I think it's going to be a perfect like over a dress type of thing. So yeah, so anyway, it really did bring back a lot of knitting mojo. I was working on it like all the time. There have been so many times recently where I've just been times where I used to knit that I would just be sitting there because I just didn't feel like it and didn't want to, and with this one I wanted to. So I'm not surprised it went so quickly, and I'm really excited about it. I'm really, you know, I just like was a little overwhelmed with pride in finishing it and seeing it, and I can't wait to give it to her. And I wish I could give it to her in person, of course, but virtually we'll have to do. And it's like so funny because like we're all thinking back on like last year, and I remember, you know, her birthday's early April, which is like pretty early in when the pandemic started. And I remember telling her, you know, asking her what she wanted for her birthday, and you know, it's the same thing that I was kind of explaining before, but she kind of said, I don't know, whatever you like type of thing. And I said, well, how about I send you, and they like surprises. Like some people, you know, some people like to just be given things that they want and that they ask for. Like her and her sister, they both love surprises. Maybe her little sister not as much, but Hannah loves surprises. So I said, how about I give you one surprise, and then we'll do, when we finally can see each other again, we'll do a special day. Like me and my husband will do a special day, just the three of us. And then of course her little sister was there. So I was like, yes, you too, on your birthday, you'll get a special day too. And we haven't gotten to do that. And so I feel like now I'm going to owe her 2 special days, which is just fine by me. But anyway, so Pi is here. Hi, Pepe. So just kind of going back through, it does have a tubular cast on and a tubular bind off. Not my favorite to do, of course, but it does look nice with the ribbing and everything. I know that I probably didn't do the best job with it, but I did it, and it's there, so you can see the, well, so you can see the tubular bind cast on. If you don't know what that is, what it does is, instead of having like a normal cast on edge that kind of has like this knit stitch going across the top, it just makes like a rounded, it's not going to focus on it, it just makes a rounded edge, so when you have ribbing it kind of like continues the stitch over, and then the same, the bind offs are all tubular bind offs too. So not my most favorite to do, but looks nice. I think the sweater would have looked just as nice if I had done regular cast-ons and bind-offs, but that is fine. Again, the only modifications I made, so I did use a size 1 needle. It called for something bigger. I always go down a needle size. So I did a size 1 for the neckline and the hems, and then I did a 1.5 for the body. And then when I did the sleeves, I went down to a size 0, and I brought the stitch count down by 1 repeat of the lace pattern. Normally for the cuff, you would go down a needle size. I did not. I just kept it at the 0s because I don't own double 0s. So we just kept it at 0s for the cuff. Otherwise, I think I hit on everything else that I did. So that is that with this sweater. Again, it's just been a joy to finish and to knit for someone else, and I can't wait to see her face when she gets it. I know she's gonna love it and wear it a ton, so I'm excited about it. So that is it. Again, this is Aurora. Aurora is available on all bases in my shop at agirlandherwool.com, and I will link to this pattern as well if you want to knit it. I would definitely follow it. Actually, one thing that I wanted to talk about with the pattern, so the way the pattern is written, there are a lot of different sizes. I think it goes up to like a 10 or 12-year-old. I'm not sure if it starts at newborn or not. I think it does. I think it starts at newborn and it goes up to like 10 or 12-year-old. I knit one of the biggest sizes. The 8-year-old was one of the biggest sizes. And the way the pattern is written is it's intended to be a 1-page pattern. So instead of following the directions and you have all the parentheses with the different stitch counts or rows or whatever in the parentheses, each size has its own page with the pattern on it, except the instructions, the abbreviations, and the lace chart. So for the sleeves and the yoke, the 2 charts are on the first few pages. And so after that, each size has its own page, which I think is designed really nicely for if you're somebody who prints out a pattern, you would print those first 2 or 3 pages of the abbreviations and the charts, and then the last page. I don't know if the chart was written anywhere. It definitely is not in the 1-page pattern for your size. So I just don't remember if it was written out where the lace chart was. I followed the lace chart. So anyway, you would print out the first few pages that had the abbreviations if you wanted to, the abbreviations and the charts, and then you would print out your 1 page. So that way it's just 1 page. You don't have to find your stitches and everything, which is really nice. You can just follow that 1 page. My problem is that I don't print patterns out. I am a digital person, so I keep all my patterns digitally, and I prefer to look at them on my phone or on my computer. And I found it really annoying because I was one of the largest sizes and there were a lot of pages in the pattern because there were so many sizes. It was really annoying for me to flip back and forth. I think that's why the yoke went so slow, because I had to keep flipping back between the regular pattern and then the lace chart. And once I was just in the sleeve where I just had the pattern memorized, it was much faster, but that drove me a little crazy. So that was something that I want to point out. I do think that the intention of the designer was to make it more simpler so you would be able to follow the pattern easier, but I just don't print patterns, so that setup just didn't work for me so nicely. That would be my only thing. Of course I could have printed out the pattern at any time, but I didn't, and so that's just like one comment that I had about it. But no mistakes in the pattern, completely easy to follow. Definitely would recommend it for, you know, a quick children's sweater if you want like a little bit of interest in those sleeves. I could also see just following the pattern and not doing the lace section and just using it as a raglan if you want like a children's raglan. And the sizing works better than maybe some other patterns. I would definitely recommend it. So I will link to it down below, and that is that. All right, so again, clubs renew tomorrow, so if you want to join the April mystery clubs, make sure you do that by tomorrow. We're going to be doing a die with me on Tuesday, and it's going to be a of fun dye with me. We have finished the cake series. We're moving on to something new, so make sure you check that out on Tuesday, especially if you're in the Dye With Me club, because I will be recapping what's available for your kind of April 1st renewal, basically your March shipment, for the Dye With Me club, which you are also welcome to join. And then we have a shop update coming in a couple of weeks, and the Rainbow Club is going to be coming soon, so I'll be announcing details for that next week, so stay tuned for that. And that is it. So if you have any questions about anything, definitely reach out, agirlandherwool@gmail.com, or you can Instagram message me. DM me is the term the cool kids use. So that is it. I will talk to you guys all soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.